On the ruler, you can see it has numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I've already done the first part, which is to fold your strips in half and then lay them out wrong side up. And now I'm going to start with number 1 on the ruler, which is this one. Align with the top of your strip. You're going to align right here and then make a mark. This is your 45-degree line. And you do this on all of your pieces. Once you have them all drawn with your 45-degree line, I like to take the top one and flip it. And that'll make sense later. Okay? And then I just pick them up, this one on top, and I pick them up and take them to the machine. I'm going to sew those together. Now, the first one I'm going to sew is that one I flipped. It has no markings on the side. They are on this other side, which will show up at the end of the quilt. Okay, now I have pinned my first piece and my second piece, right sides together, and I have the corners matching, and I'm going to sew right on that line.
When I went to work, things for work.
When done with those, I just grab the end of the tail of the one I just finished, and I'm going to put it up here and grab my next piece, put that together. I'm going to pin and sew again. Okay, I've sewn all my strips together. At this point, you want to clip in between them, and you're going to clip this off about 1/4 inch. I usually use scissors, it's quicker. Now fold your batting, your binding back up. And I'm going to look at it and make sure that when I get down to the corner, sorry about that, I was out of focus. So I've put the end at the top that has the mark. Okay, that's going to go first. And I'm making sure that when I get down to the corner, I don't have a seam, because you don't really want a seam in the corner. And this is where number 2 on your ruler comes in. So I'm going to turn this to number 2 and mark my binding. That's the binding fold and the binding raw edge.
So the reason my job is done is because I got to do your crap. So if it's getting done and they see my name on it, that's who they going to.
Okay, sorry, I had to stop, get a pen. So I'm going to mark right here on this dotted line, because that's where I want to sew. All right. And then I'm going to take the ruler, and we want to come down, because we want to start about 8 inches down. So this is 4. This is another 4. I'm going to start about right here. And I'm going to take it to the machine and pin it and just start sewing on that line, which is a 3/8 inch seam. When you get close to the bottom, maybe 5 or 6 inches or so, you're going to do number 3 on here on the ruler, which we're going to turn number 3. Now, I have a label on here, and I don't know if you do that or not, but so just to let you know, that's what that is. So what you want to do is take number 3, and it is going to go align with the right side and exactly on the corner here. I got to scoot this over a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to draw mark that line. That is also a 45-degree line. Okay. Now when I sew, I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to just keep coming down and stop. Okay, I've stopped on that line. I'm going to cut my thread. Oops. And lift the pressure foot. Now what you want to do is, I can't do this and hold the phone, but I usually put a pin or something right there. Let me try that. Just to hold that down right there. And then you're going to fold back on that line. That's not working. But you're going to fold back on that line so that you have a perfect 45-degree fold right here. Jeez. That's my door alarm. Just means the UPS is here. And then you want to take your ruler and place it right here on the corner. I'm aligning the right side and the bottom. Get it nice and straight. And then you fold this back over. Then you pull that out, and you're going to pin or hold your finger or whatever, because you want to turn this and you're going to start sewing right there. Okay, you see I have it pinned. That just keeps it together, because now I've got to turn my whole quilt. This way. And then ouch. Then I'm going to start right here using that same seam allowance that we used in the beginning, which is 3/8 of an inch. And I'm going to sew to the next corner that. Okay, I've done my fourth corner and now I'm just sewing down the side. And I forgot to mention, I had put this pin in before I started. It's about 6 or 8 inches above the beginning tail. So I'm going to stop when I get to that pin. Okay, now I take the pin out and I'm going to cut my thread and move the quilt to the side. This is where the magic happens. So you have your beginning tail, which is the one with the drawn line. I think my line went away because it was chalk or something. Let me remark that. Okay, I've remarked it. Sorry about that. So you're going to take your top piece, your beginning tail, and keep it straight. Keep your binding straight. I know why. I'm so stupid. Forget I said that. This is the one that's marked. Anyway. Okay, so your top up there, your bottom here. So you want to take this ruler and go, now we're on number 4, and you're going to place it right here at the top of your bottom. Make sure it's your beginning tail. Make sure it's right there and that your binding is laying flat on your quilt, which it is. Then you're going to take the top piece, the ending tail, and put it over that ruler. And then I usually just take my scissors and cut, because you're going to cut right there. You're only cutting the top, like that, okay? So now you have these 2 pieces. Take the top piece, turn it to the right, and just lay it flat. Take the top piece, you're going to turn it to the right and open it wrong side up so you can see that line, which you can barely see. And then what we're going to do is scrunch up this. Okay, here you can see. So I've got my ending tail right side up and over to the right. I've got my beginning tail wrong side up and over to the right. And I'm going to pin these just like we did the binding in the beginning. And then I'm going to sew down this line. So I've sewn the line. And the reason that I brought all this up is it makes it easier to put these 2 pieces together if all this is gathered up. So now what you do is straighten out. And it pops right into place. And now you should have a smooth line. Make sure that you have this before you cut these pieces off. So now I can cut those pieces off and finish sewing this line. Okay, that's done and it fit perfect. And now I'm going to sew to the front. Obviously, I sewed my binding to the back. You may sew yours to the front, pull to the back, and hand sew. I'm sewing to the back, and then I'm going to pull to the front, and I'm going to sew it down with the machine. Okay, and this is how I do my binding on the front. When I'm getting close to a corner, I fold the bottom up and I put a pin. Then I fold the side over and I put a pin. And then I fold the 45-degree line to try to give myself a good line there, and then I put a pin. And so whatever method you use to pin your quilt, sometimes I use clips, sometimes I use pins, whatever. And then I'm gonna, this is hard to show with this black, I'm sorry, but you'll see, I'm gonna sew just right inside this line here. And when I've pulled this forward, I can show you down here, you can see the line where I sew the binding on the back. When I pull it forward, I want to make sure that line is covered up. And of course, if you're on a non-straight stitch machine, you could always use a special stitch instead of straight stitch. And those are actually much easier to sew. So let me see if I can get this lined up. I've got a basting stitch so I could pull it out because it's hard to sew and hold this camera. And then when I get to the bottom, I'm going to leave it needle down, turn, and then catch back up with myself, sewing straight. And then I'll just keep pinning and sewing the rest until I'm done.